Coming to you from South Florida, the Casey Ingram Show broadcasts from the heart of the Manatee Pocket, atop the Fish House District and a marina, Port Salerno's hidden gem. Now here's Casey Ingram Unleashed.
In the shadows, Ingram calls the shots, speaking truth to power where the rebels lost. Voices rising, anger crackles through the air. Casey's being unleashed, raising hell without a care.
Welcome, everybody. I am absolutely excited. Next week, we're going to be live on Rumble February 19th. But today, February 12th, we have a very special two guests in the studio with me today. I have Jimmy Smith and Daryl Magill. Both of them you absolutely see around Martin County and around town. And we're really going to talk about some wonderful topics. Jimmy's been a repeat guest and had some wonderful stories with Jimmy. And Jimmy, you just actually had an article come out in TC Palm this week or this past week where you were the first Black park ranger in Jonathan Dickinson Park. How about that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was great, you know. 21 years old, 22 years old, you never think of those things, but, you know, it's a blessing that people recognize that, because history is something that we need to know, that how far we come, how far we still can go in life.
We've talked a lot about that, and just to give you a little background, I'm sure most everybody knows you too, but I do have a bio I have to share. Jimmy is the president of the Martin County NAACP and has played a significant role in expanding the organization's impact. One of his major accomplishments was securing a permanent home for the local NAACP branch, which officially opened in December 2017 on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Through his leadership, the building has become a hub for community programs and events. Jimmy has also been a vocal advocate on social issues, particularly in addressing gun violence in Martin County. He has emphasized the need for stronger family values and community involvement in guiding young people. He has also expressed concerns about Florida's gun laws and their impact on violence in the area. His leadership focuses on increasing NAACP membership and strengthening relationships with local political figures, law enforcement, and nonprofits to better serve the community. And right here to my left, Daryl Magill. Daryl Magill is a seasoned entertainment professional with over 60 years of experience in the industry. He has produced nearly 100 concerts at fairs and has opened for renowned acts like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Mark Anthony, and the Platters. His extensive career includes roles as activities director, athletic director, and entertainment director at various institutions and events, including the Ulster County Fair and Martin County Fair, where he was the entertainment chair from 2012 to 2017, and most recently serving on the advisory committee. Magill holds an associate's degree in accounting, a bachelor's degree in business, a master's in education, and a certificate in sports and event marketing. He has been recognized in his contributions to the community and the entertainment industry with the numerous awards, including the Martin County Fair Award for Service in 2013 and the Pride of Ulster County Award. He served the NJCAA recognition for dedicated service Region 15 in 1989, the Certificate of Congressional Recognition for Invaluable Community Service in 2007, and 2 other congressional awards for community service. He was also nominated by the Unsung Hero Award by a philanthropic organization in 2024 and was a finalist for the TV show The Bachelor in the same year.
And I should say,
Daryl.
The Golden Bachelor.
The Golden Bachelor.
I'm sorry, I left out that word, the Golden Bachelor. I'm sorry.
A young man like you, how did they even let you into the Golden Bachelor? Huh?
How did...
And finally here, Magill's diverse talents extend to television and radio, having hosted a regional muscular dystrophy radiothon and being featured on New York advertising for America's Got Talent. He even had a children's record that won the Best New Artist Award in 1999. His dedication and achievements in entertainment, education, and community service make Daryl Magill a respected figure and significant contributor to the industry. So I am so proud to have Daryl and Jimmy here sitting with me today. And first show that we're moving on to the new Rumble format here on February 19th.
Okay.
And lots to talk about, and I'm just so excited. But before we get into this, we talked about you being president of the NAACP. Did you know what happened on this day in history in 1915? This is February 12th, even though we're recording today.
Okay, 1915. Do I know what happened in 1915?
I'm sorry, 1909.
Oh, 1909.
That one might sound more familiar. Yes.
Well, that's when NAACP began.
That's right. NAACP was founded.
1909.
The day this is airing, February 12th, 1909. So
that's right. Dates in that. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Time flies, I swear. So very exciting. I want to just kind of start out. I'll start with you, Jimmy. Why is it important to highlight Black History Month in Martin County, particularly during this month of February?
Well, what's important to me is I know that we name it Black History Month, but actually it's American history. But just to isolate it so people can understand that, won't get it confused, that a lot of times the Black and brown community never get noticed for the achievement of America. And so it was great that they set aside that just to give a start. I hope one day that it will combine back together and make it American history. And so that's why I say that it's great, because this world today is that how would I ever get to know who you are unless I know where you come from? And history has a lot to do with that. It's not to look down on anybody or hold anybody responsible, but just to know that, hey, we got our kids coming up today. All they will see is that their ancestors was only the input of this country to be a great country. But to see their neighbors or their friends or their classmates, to see a kid in your classroom, your kid see another kid, and you look at their shoes and their clothing, and you're like, wow, why their clothing look so bad? Well, they don't understand what those kids had to come through or what they're going through, and they'll look at their stuff and say, mine's very nice, but the achievements are different, and things have happened to shorten that time in their life. So it's a great thing for this to share.
It is very good to share for children and adults alike. And Jimmy, that's one thing I will say with the NAACP here locally. You've done a really good job of bringing together the community as a whole.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, it's almost split with 50% white, 50% black, right?
Right. And that's my heart, because my family integrated. My family is diversity all through my life. It was great that my mother helped raise George and Jed Bush from kids. She worked for Raised Flowers for all those years, and then the Bushes. And when I looked at that in my life, in high school and middle school, my girlfriend was white. Okay, we weren't raised in judging people because of color. We was raised to, if you love, you like someone, that's what you go after. And so through school, all those years back, I look back at how Martin County was towards me and my brother, having, girlfriends of white. And my dad used to come and say, son, let me tell you, there's a lot of people might not agree, but I want to ask you this question. I never forget that. He said, son, do y'all love them? And we said, yep. He said, do you love them enough to stand up for them? Yep. He said, okay, then I support them. And from that point on, I think there was a lot of barriers that was broken here in Martin County that we don't talk about. Because we look at Martin County High School, I ain't gonna brag on that, but I think that my girlfriend was one of the most popular girls that was in school. Probably, I don't want to call her name, but that's not good. But I'm just looking at that, how that transition had came down the barrel. A lot of other guys got engaged and married, and people became a family, and still a lot of them today. So it helped change the outlooks of Martin County. For my sake, is that now people begin to understand that, hey, if you love somebody, it shouldn't matter what race or what color. All these things shouldn't matter. It's you being happy and be able to live your life out. So, yeah.
Well, they say it all the time. We put on our pants the same way. Our blood bleeds the same color. It's about the person, and it's about, as you said, just loving people for who they are.
Right.
And it's so much deeper. And both of you have went through an era that it wasn't acceptable, and people were judging specifically just on skin color.
Yeah.
And for you to have a white girlfriend in high school, this was, can I say, back in the 60s?
You can say 60s, 70s, yeah. Yeah, I graduated in the 70s, yeah, but 60s on up, yeah.
I don't want to age you too soon, so the 70s. But that was groundbreaking at the time. So,
Right.
and now it's commonplace and nobody thinks anything of it. So
Right.
it's wonderful to see it evolving, and then in probably other respects, you still see some challenges ahead. And Daryl, I met Daryl at the Martin County Fair. And
Yes.
boy, an entertainment director is really probably a really good title for you. You seem to know everybody in the entertainment field from one place or another or through a connection, and it really was a lot of fun to see you work the short time I was there. So I'd like you to just share a little bit about your experiences here in Martin County with entertainment and where things are today.
Well, again, I moved here from New York in 2010, so I've been here for 14 years. And my experiences in entertainment is that actually I joined a band with one of the city commission. He's not a commissioner; he's a financial guy. Mr. Krolsky's band, Gold something, I can't remember.
Jim Krolsky, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He was the drummer, and that was one of the first bands I was here. And it just ended up, I was still kind of looking for more work, and I moved to a band called the Chase Band. Steve Chase, I don't know, who's a Broadway producer. They heard me sing, and they brought me on that next year following Golden. He'll probably knock me in the face for a sec. I can't remember the name. Gold something.
Gold Fever or something like that. I can't remember.
Not quite that, but yeah. Anyway, it was a good name and it was a good group. I just was looking for more work, and so I joined the Chase Band, and I've been with them for 12 years, and I appear all over Florida, and I do some shows in New York, and I have a band in New York, and I actually have a second band here. So I get calls from New York, and I go back up to New York and perform with former members of my old band that I saw you send you a picture of, the Big Smoothies.
Yes.
They're not called that anymore. They're called Sass and Brass. With their kids are now involved in that same band. So they were adults, and they've gotten their kids in the band, and it's still going on. So.
And you do a lot of work here with the Kane Center as well.
I do. I sing at the Kane Center. They invite me for many of their events to sing at. I'm a national anthem singer, and I do that, which is very important to me, so that people see that we as people of color, we're part of America, and we are. So I sing for the Mets, the Mets Stadium, the Cardinal Stadium, and the new stadium there in West Palm Beach.
So you're all over. I'm sure you'll see
Yes.
Daryl around town.
And I do all of the 9/11 events with Dennis McKenna.
Wow.
Singing the national anthem or sing whatever he requests.
So you certainly see Daryl, and I know that you've done some Tina Turner acts too.
Yes,
And he is the Tina Turner, by the way.
I am. And again, I express that because I had a casino show, and I learned from where I first started out singing in resorts or whatever, just me singing, and I could see people like their heads were bobbing, and okay. I said I had to do something to excite the audience. So I would come out as different people. I had different entrances. I did everything that was maybe people would go like, oh my gosh, but hey, they were awake and waiting for something else. And I involved audience engagement.
I can imagine him in a blonde wig coming out in heels.
Wow. And I just have to tell you this one story, which is very funny. I was singing at the Turning Stone Casino, and I'm backstage, and the band is playing. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Tina Turner. I couldn't find my dress. I had left it home, I couldn't find my dress. I already had my stockings on and my hair on, and I had no dress. And and Tina Turner. And Tina Turner! And finally, I had to go out like how I was.
Oh, my goodness, you heard something,
with
right?
high heels, stockings, and a wig. It's the crowd. When their mouths were wide open. Oh!
Kanye West has nothing on you.
So, anyway, that's one of the many stories that I can tell you of things that happen, and you just have to. In television or in show business, you have to make it happen, And I was brought up in college. As I went to theater, I was in theater, or Shakespearean theaters, whatever was going on. In college, I was acting more than singing, but I got back to singing after I finished that part of it.
So, Daryl, as we talk about Black History Month, tell us a little bit about your experiences and maybe things that you see, positive, negative, either way, especially here in Martin County, as we're local here.
Well, all of my involvement in fairs was to see diversity, not just African American, but I've brought in Indian entertainers, Chinese entertainers who are traveling the world. When I started out, I basically was in college. I was still a college student. I was the commissioner of cultural activities or whatever. And I would bring in people like Reverend Ralph Abernathy during this time of, Black History Month, which was big. Hundreds of people came to see that. But also for educational things, the Heimlich maneuver, Henry Heimlich, that was for my nursing. So I would bring in nationally known people to the Olympic stars. Ralph Boston, who was also an African American, would speak to them, and would just give students and young people just another side of seeing people who have accomplished their dream. What I would go around to and I would go back to my own elementary school, because one of my friends who was in my class when I was at school, she came back a school teacher, so she'd always call me back, and I would go into the school, which was in the inner city, and speak to the students about their dreams. And that was the focus of one of my speeches that I would take to the YMCA, to Boys and Girls Clubs, to elementary schools.
Very impactful.
And, tell about living their dream. And that's these people, Ralph Boston and all of those, that's what they had done. And so that's part of my reason for just being out there for Black History is helping kids and being educated. Because as I've moved on and I'm older, they are going to be taking the place of myself and Mr. Smith in, being outspoken about saying, hey, the past history. And I used to come down here as a kid. My mom was from Georgia, but my grandparents lived in Gifford.
Okay.
And as a kid, we came down every summer from New York in a car here to Gifford, Florida. And once we got south, we always heard the words, "You are not welcome here." Gas stations to go to the bathroom, restaurants like a Howard Johnson, you could go in there, you're not welcome here. You'd sit there, and after a while, you just have to walk out and leave. They would not serve you. I remember the signs that said, "White only, colored this way." They're in my head, always from a kid. I might have been 5 years old, 7 years. We came down every summer to be with, Grandma and Grandpa. And I've never forgotten that.
And that's where history can't be forgotten, but we learned from it. And Jimmy, tell us a little bit, share with us a little bit about the history of New Monrovia, East Stewart, Petway area, some of these areas. You grew up here in Martin County. You lived through desegregation here.
Yes, coming here in 1962 from Georgia, moved to Hope Sound. Majority of that's my family, about 80% down there on my father's side, 60% of Gomez. It's my family on my mother's side. It's weird, but we just migrated here. We was a large family. But coming through these times back then, segregation, mostly people was marching and protesting to integrate. Because back then, the blacks had their own beach over there on Johnson Beach. It's where the blacks go. And that's where you can't go. In East Stewart, if you look at East Stewart, Hope Sound, and Port Salon and Gomez, everything was self-sufficient. They had their own grocery store, own gas station, money circulate 3 times before they leave the community. They were self-sufficient. They had their own taxi cab service. I can go on bars. There was multiple stores right there in the same community. I know East Stewart had the grocery store. Indian Town, the same thing. Everything that they needed, their laundromat, all was right there in the community. And so when the NAACP and other organizations was marching to be integrated, because there was so much boundary that you can go. So you're restricted to areas. And it wasn't good, because we was fighting we felt like that as a human being, we all should be able to share together. And it took years. It was a battle. And then when it became integrated, you speak supposed to learn to old school. I can remember when my father was working over the school buses, driving with Mr. Willie Garrett and all of them. They went to high school at Murray. Okay, they started out with Stewart's training school here in East Stewart, but they had to go to Murray, and then they had to march to Cold Road to practice football. So you look back and you see the change, and then you see the fights that we had with Ku Klux Klans, back in the days, everybody was just trying to love one another. We had a lot of whites that was fighting for the same thing. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of whites that was fighting for equal opportunity, for should be freedom to be able to maneuver and have the same thing. But I look back to get to this point in 1975. That's not long ago. The Ku Klux Klans from Palm City were putting out black flyers that they were having a meeting and over there, and they wanted to recruit new kids from the high school and all. And I was just teasing. At the time, I had a white girlfriend, and I had my sister-in-law, which she is my sister-in-law today, to just make me some flyers. We having a Black Panther meeting at the Civic Center Stewart. So just did. So she made me 100. We passed them all out, and that day it was probably over 400 or 500 people that showed up at the Civic Center, and the sheriff department too. And when I got there, they told me, "Who's the leader?" So it looked like they were ready to arrest that person, so I didn't go up. And I was just teasing with, a kid, and so I never went up. But my father thought it was my brother, my older brother, that was leading that pack, and I was afraid to tell him because he was very strict. So I look back at the changes, how we battled in school. The Ku Klux Klans attacked us from the backside of a masonry class where a lychee tree nursery. They came across the ditch, grown-ups with bats, shovel, axe, all that, and they attacked us real bad. And they forced us all the way up in the middle of the high school. And by the time we can get reinforcement, it was real terrible. A lot of innocent people got hurt. I know my brother got kicked out of school indefinitely because they attacked him inside the library. He was running across tables, and he was trying to protect himself. He threw a chair and hit one of the guys and put 80 some stitches in his head. And other guys got hurt in the bathroom, all kind of things. So that was the time when they decided to put some kind of security in the school in Martin County High. But to get to that point to now, to build a relationship with the NAACP is with my leadership and others that trying to bridge that gap. If working together, learning how to understand one another, love one another. And I think a lot of things have happened in the past 5-6 years. Like the kids over in Palm City with that school with the N-word. Most people was, afraid what was going to happen. And to me, God revealed to me is that same thing everybody wants for their kid, mercy and second chance and all those things. I felt that's what everybody else been wanting all their life, is a second chance. Please have mercy on my children. And that's the kind of heart you want to have. Our kids make a lot of mistakes because we have to learn how to become adult. It's something that we born with. And so to say this, the motto of this world is say a child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind. That means a child born have no idea how we live. They grow to learn our ways. So racism and hatred and all that stuff is something that you instill in a child. And basically it comes from the inside of the household first. That's the foundation, but that's who a child trusts is their parents. Not that all parents stay that way, but when you get it in their head at a young age, it's hard to take it out of their head. Like Daryl was saying, what he was experienced in his mind. But you can work on those things. And so, yes, it's a great change to be right here in the studio with you, to share with all the things, your wonderful husband and all these people that you meet that got a heart of love. So that's the greatest thing about Martin County today.
And can I say one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
It is easier to love than to hate. And I just don't get it why people don't take that as an initiative to find something. It's easier to love each other than to hate each other.
Take the least path of resistance, as they say,
Right.
certainly.
Right.
And, Jimmy, that's one thing. I've known you for so long now, and you're a great uniter. in the community, and your voice really helped simmer down a very hot situation, this boiling over situation with the children at Palm City Elementary. And you took that situation and were able to bring the community together. And very few people can do that. So it's wonderful that you're president of the NAACP, because you have done so much. Your membership numbers show it, to bring the community together, where we take that path of least resistance and just enjoy each other.
Enjoy each other. So much easier.
With Black history, you touched a little bit about when it was segregated. You had your own businesses within the Black community. Today, we talk a lot about gentrification, right? So what do you see through history and looking into the future, protecting the Black businesses? Some of them probably went away already, but we talk about possibly East Stewart with train stations and stuff coming, but it's different areas around the country. Gentrification happens.
You know, that's a good question, because that was a discussion just we had a few days ago about how the Blacks owned it years ago, owned it Juvenile on the Oceanside. And history was that they was pushed from the Oceanside to the Riverside, from Porcelana all the way back down to Hope Sound. All Blacks owned it all the way down to the Riverside, okay? The Miller family, Harley Ellison family, my Uncle Church, and I can name it. That was the hammock with Lala Bay and Lala Pond. All that was our playing ground. Families lived all the way down there. And that is not too long ago.
Right.
What I'm trying to say,
Right.
Dr. David Anderson, I think he was the last one just sold his last piece of property before he passed. 7 years ago or so. I look at the Miller family, own majority of it, Harley Ellison family. I can go on and name families that lived there on the Riverside. And we was living on the other side of the road track on A1A there, across, but that was where we go and all hang out at, and our families. And I look today that integration was a great thing, and to a certain degree. It was very, what it did, it really caught the Black and brown people, successful people, off base. Mm-hmm. What it did, they didn't realize that when we became integrated, people that's in power was setting up a system that they look at what your community was living according to, the rules and regulations. They know that it didn't fit the same rules and regulations that they was planning. So a lot of things got changed, and it called a lot of them off base, of target on what's going on with business today, the new rules, what you require, and it required more money, more stipulation, more all those things. And I look, Casey, I look back at life and say, it's not that people was looking for that, they caught them off guard. And when people was very created things or designed things or made things like tools, and there was engineers and everything. Only thing that they didn't know, all the things that they designed. If you look like a rake or shovel, well, most rakes didn't use those tools. So who had to find a way to make their job easier? They designed those tools back in slavery, and then they didn't understand, they didn't have the patent on there. So a lot of people became successful by getting patent. That was one thing that in Black and white that the Black community did not know about. When they did work and found out, hey, you didn't own this, you designed it. And the patent internal was really took effect. So when you look at integration and through the days, what it did, it helped God's people become closer, understanding that you don't own anything in this world. No matter how much money you have, you're going to have to go out the same way with nothing. Came into the world with nothing. So it's saying what you did between the time you was born and the time you was died. It's all in the middle. And that's why I can say that, thank God for the integration, that we became Americans. And when I was in the military, when we went, we all didn't see no color. But we had to fight for each other. But we come back to America, why do we feel that we need to separate? And that's where Black history should be very important that, not to say that it's not American history, but it's just to bring us together, that black people, brown people, white people have did so many great things together. Why keep it away from the other people that haven't been engaged in it?
And I had a similar experiences also with, just very brief, my dad served in World War II and his brother also served in World War II. And both told me stories. My dad told me stories of being in World War II. He was in the invasion of Sicily. Mother was involved in D-Day. When they came back to America, they were just heartbroken that they were treated like they were. And actually in war, they were sometimes, my dad said, they were treated nicer by the Italian people. He was in Sicily, in Italy. Than they were by white Americans, and it affected him. He just didn't want to move on from his head of how he was treated after he came back from serving the country in World War II.
And that's a good point. You're here fighting for the country, for all of us, all of our freedom together. And why, when you come back,
something is different. It's not what we...
It's not appreciated as much.
And that's why I sing the national anthem in different places for people to see that we, people of color, are from America, and we embrace the same things. But there are some people here, and I'll just make it very short. I had a neighbor who was talking to me, said he'd gotten invited to a party. This may be back 2 years ago. And he says he went, some friends had invited him to a party. He said he got there, he says, it was a Ku Klux Klan meeting. Wow. Here in Martin County, somewhere out in the boondocks. But
fairly recently?
Probably 2 years ago.
Wow. That's, speaking of that, let's go into not Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say that something still exists.
How have you seen law relations with law enforcement over the years? I know that's changed dramatically, and it's something that everybody's focused on.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I can go back. We only really had 4 sheriffs here in Martin County that I know from a kid up. That was Roy C. Baker. And then when they decided they wanted to get rid of Roy C. Baker, he controlled majority of the gambling here in Martin County and in town. And so they appointed Crowder temporarily to replace Roy C. Baker. And then when it came for the election, Jane Holt beat Crowder out. And he was a sheriff for over 20 years. And seeing those things, Lord have mercy on my soul for that one. I know that he had a chance to, on his deathbed, as I understand from a black nurse, that he repent. Ask God to forgive him. So if he had a chance to do it all over, he'll never do it that way. I've seen a lot of blacks been let out of jail and chased by the 100-man posse from Palm City, by under Hope administration. I can see women's crying out to the sheriff, please don't kill my son. I know that through Jane Holt time, I am one black lady that lived in Palm City, and she lived for Mr. Mathis, stayed at his house, was his maid or whatever, nurse, but her kids couldn't live there. They lived in East Stewart. And her son, he was better that he wanted to go to a Klan's meeting, and he didn't know they had to unmask by a couple of white friends. And they want to give him $100. Well, $100 back then was a lot of money. He took the chance. And so anyway, when they unmasked, they chased him, and he couldn't cross the bridge, so he had to dive in the water, swim under the water while they shooting at him. And he made it. And so you go back, and then from Jane Holt, then you became Crowder back to sheriff again. About another 20 years or so. And Jane Holt controlled all the drugs. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. There's a young man seen the planes drop the dope right off across the bridge road. And I see all the Broncos go in there and get it. And we as kids, we go 2 days later and they go bust the bales and everything. And, they control the drugs out in Indian town the same way. And then they put it back in our community and had some blacks just distribute it. And when they want to make a bust and make it look good, they'll go bust 2 or 3 and they'll put it in the paper, let them out later, and put it back on the streets. And then you go on to Crowder. Crowder became the sheriff, and to me, just talking about the NAACP, didn't have that relationship with them, and he became the sheriff. And some people, I'm not knocking Mr. Crowder, but or at that time we didn't have that relationship. When we did have a meeting with him one time, there was a noose hanging up in the office. So from there, after Crowder, and that's why I always say Sheriff Snyder was the best sheriff we ever had. I think Sheriff Bootis is going to be a better one as taking that torch. Sheriff Snyder became the sheriff. We built relationships.
There was a lot of changes in building relationships through Sheriff Snyder's tenure.
And
you can see
don't get me wrong, there was more blacks was on the force during Jane Hope and Roger Baker time, but they weren't allowed to do anything. They was only allowed to do over Indian Town and just be in that community. They couldn't allowed to arrest no whites or anything like that. But with Snyder, he became to sit down, open the ear, open door policy. We began to talk. He was a man of God, believe me. He started making changes. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot more we can do, need to be done. But we built that foundation with him, with a heart that God put him in place, and began to hide minorities and be diversity and all those things. And to the day that he choose to step down, and now at the same time build a lot of relationship with Mr. Boots. We talks all the time. We text. And he listens. He's young. He been out in the field. He knows just about everybody, and he don't hold that past when he arrested people. Somebody don't never like you because you arrested them. But I look at where we are today. We got a lot of work to still do because our young kids is coming up. And we got to understand that guns is kill if you pull the trigger. And we got to help them to understand that you don't need a gun to walk around these days. And so I think Mr. Bootsy, we will have a better relationship. That's why I can say in the city police, we have a great one with Chief Tomanella. I had it with David Dyes. We made a lot of changes in the city of Stewart. They have a heart, they have an open ear, speed dial, you can talk to them, so those great relationships.
It's important to have that open communication. Again, I'm coming to you today from Fish House District in Marina. You can escape here to the breathtaking Manatee Pocket I'm overlooking it right now. It's anchored by the Pearl, the new swanky hot spot serving up fresh seafood, craft cocktails, and unforgettable vibe. Explore the district, unwind by the water, and top it all off with ice cream at Captain Hook's, which Jimmy knows something about.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's your grandson.
No, my nephew.
Nephew. Why did I say nephew?
Yeah,
you told me that on the way in. His nephew owns that. You can do some aerial yoga at the OM Shack. From laid back days to lively nights, there's something for everyone. Come see what the buzz is all about right here at the Fish House District and Marina. So a lot of fun. I sit there and I listen. This is so important and why Black History Month is important. Jimmy, I'm struck by how recent, honestly, some of the stories you're telling are, and I say recent, it might be 20 years ago, but everybody thinks that segregation and racism is just so far in the past, and it's really not. We're still working on it today.
Right.
And I think that's the importance of bringing the history and still working today, moving forward, having these conversations so people understand different perspectives and understand maybe how we can move forward together.
Right.
I mean, what's wrong with having conversations, right?
Right.
It's important. Are there any events that are happening right now in Martin County where the folks might be interested in going and attending that would be a good event just to learn more or just participate in?
Yes. We have a church service February 16th at St. Paul that I'll be doing the moderating, emceeing there. We have that Saturday, January 15th. At the Civic Center East Stewart, there, East 10th Street, 724 Southeast 10th Street. They have a modeling show for young kids, doing a great job for the Black History Month. That morning they have a dinner, I guess it's Valentine's Day, right around the same time. Yep. And then they have a nice event in Indian Town at the Marina. That's the 22nd February. There be in the Marina there.
Is it Indian Town Marina or Indian Town Marine Center? There's two of them out
Marina.
there. Marina.
Owned by
Scott Watson.
Scott Watson.
Okay.
Marina. He was just was on the phone with one of the council there for Indian Town, and wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Scott Watson for being a big great supporter for all things right here in Martin County. So those is taking place, and that we hope that people can attend. We know that the fair is coming, and it's sad, but I don't want to get into the fair is February the 14th,
Yes.
up to the 22nd, and I just want to let everybody know we won't have an exhibited booth for Black History there this year. There's a lot of reasons. I don't want to get into all the politics of it. For years that fair, for I say over 70 years, 60 something, 70 years.
Yes.
I can remember that the Black and Brown community was involved in that community fair. All churches used to have their own booth where they did food, different cultures of food. St. Paul and Mount Calvary for all the years. Me as a kid, a Boy Scout, we used to work in people's yard just to have some money to get into the fair, to be serving the community. And somewhere the relationship there fell apart real bad. I'm not pointing my finger, but I can say that it's sad. We had a church program there a couple of years ago. It was awesome. And it's just built. We pulled in more than close to 14 groups was going to plan to come this year from all sorts of West Palm and Fort Lauderdale and Belle Glade that was bringing that to a gospel Sunday. They call it Super Bowl Sundays. And
Super
with
Bowl
that,
gospel, I
right,
remember.
with Darrell help organize and put it together. And it just...
What happened? What did someone tell you?
Well, yes.
Yes.
One of the guys that was on the board, Mr. Jesse, shared with me the discussion and things going on, what's happening, and that they didn't want to have, they didn't want support. They'd rather pay somebody else or donate some money to somebody else than have the black groups. It wasn't black groups because we don't have a black community.
Right.
I keep saying all the time, there's no such thing as a black community. It's a diverse community. Okay?
It is.
And people get mixed up, the black community in Eastwood or Indiantown. No. If you go in that community, you'll find all race.
You're absolutely right about that.
so-
I mean, it does get traditionally labeled,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right. It is diverse.
So with the fair, we many other people saying that they're telling their kids they're not gonna go. Okay, not to hurt the county, the businesses and everything. It's need to be awareness that you can't say you got a Martin County Fair and name it Martin County Fair and separate people because we all are Martin County's people. So to that issue, I'm thinking about looking in a little deeper with national, with state, and see how we can help whoever the leadership learn the culture of others. Maybe their hearts and minds will change, or maybe they just don't know how to deal with other race or don't want to. I think that we need to really focus on that. That is one of the biggest attractions that we have in Martin County for 100 years. Whatever, that we come together.
Well, the fair is something where a community comes together, and it should be from all backgrounds, all races. It should. It's not for one specific people, race, what have you. And that's one thing. When I grew up with the fair, it's very heartwarming to me and endearing because it was the one time farm kids, city kids, black kids, white kids, everybody just got together and we had fun.
Yeah.
And I remember you spoke before, even had brought in some of the soul food into the fair, so everybody could try different foods and different cultures, and that's what it's about.
And just let me add, what he was talking about was the involvement in the fair under the former general manager Jay Spicer. We came to the meetings. I'm a member of the NAACP myself, but we came to the meetings and met together and said, how can we bring our community together? And we came up with the idea of the exhibit, and we also had the gospel day. And it's something that event builds. Their first time that you start something, it's new.
Right.
But if you can continue it and get some momentum behind it, it can grow. And that was what our wish and our hope was to make that happen. And you were told this year about what was told to you
Last year. well, mentioned they don't want to have anything to do with the NAACP, other groups, you know, the black groups. So, you know, whatever was said, I don't like to say what he say, she say.
Right.
I just know that the
Something we need to work on.
right, and you know, when you came,
Yes.
I just want to give you a shout out to you. You understand the level of bringing families together. You was very supportive in how we can make the fair more attraction, more
Right.
exciting, bring more people out, more people to unite together like we used to have fun. I think we had better time back when it was segregated. It was more, but now
Yeah.
we're in the 2025 and we in worse shape than what back then.
Now it's more excluding, more diverse.
Right.
Not that diverse,
Yeah.
more excluding. As you all know, I was with the fair for a short time. I was not the executive director last year, but I was up until about 6 weeks before that fair, and we were hoping to bring in the Super Bowl of Gospel Night and bring in some of the soul food night in the
Right.
kitchens and bring the community back together, because that's what it was about. So it's very disappointing that it's going the other way. And I hope that with this we can bring together the community. I mean, you've been there a long time,
I've
Daryl.
been there 14 years, and what I would add is I'm the only black African American that was involved, actually integral as a member, and because they disbanded of the membership idea, but also on the advisory board, and I was a chairperson for running. I'm in my 14 years, I'm the only person I've noticed. And what I came here also to say was, I went to the fair several weeks ago on a Saturday morning to help out, like I've helped for the last years, to help out the Martin County Police Officer Sergeant Dan Foote, who helps with inmates set up the entertainment area. And I, for years, now I'm obviously in my 70s, I can't lift heavy things like I used to, but I went there and I got on the fairgrounds and I was told, you are not welcome here. That same words that I remember from back in segregation. And it just happened that I heard it on TV just that next day in a movie where they were against, this was the Irish when they were coming to America back in the 20s and 30s. Well, American, you're not welcome here. And that's racial. So that same thing that was said to me with no reason, I asked why, they said nothing.
So you don't know why. Are you allowed to go back to the fair now?
Not for 2 years, not on the fairgrounds, what this thing says. That's what he said. I asked, can I go to like an antique show? You can't come on the fairgrounds for 2 years. I was shocked. I was in tears. You can ask the officer, whom I came to help, because I've always done that. And just my fact that it was with the inmates. I taught in prisons. I know. I ran governments in prison, and I did it in colleges also. And I served on boards for about 19 years, so I know the process. I know how to deal with people, and that's the way I was treated. I was shocked.
Daryl's been a volunteer for a very long time at the fair, years and years, over a decade here locally. But you've been a volunteer in New York and here in Florida for over 3-4 decades.
At least.
Congressional awards for this. So, Daryl, it breaks my heart a little bit right now because it brings back a flash of memories of what you've went through your life, of being told blacks only, whites only, you're not welcome here. And I can't imagine the shock that you're now feeling
It's
for an
still
organization he loves. I mean, you bring so much entertainment there. I think one of the people you even know is from Casey, from the Casey and the Sunshine Band, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Oh yeah. Is that your band?
of course. I mean, you got a name like that, right? But I appreciate you bringing it out and letting us know today, because I know county commissioners, everybody watches the show, and somehow we have got to come together and do what we're doing here today. And talking and inviting, and the Martin County Fair in particular, as you said, Jimmy, that's a community event where everybody should come together. And it used to be.
Used to be.
We're going the wrong direction here, so.
And to add, there were, as you mentioned, Jesse, and there was another Hispanic involved in the fair. A great young man from Golden Gates,
Gate?
Golden Gates, who produced, concerts, Latin concerts all throughout the state. And he was told, You're not, you're out of here. I'm going to get my friend. This is from the board president to me. He's out of here. My gosh, that was our biggest event. If anybody's been this biggest money-making event, and the crowds that they drew. And it was a shame. And then I talked with Jesse. Jesse walked away from the same board also, leaving no people of color.
So folks, here we are. It's Black History Month. We're kind of coming full circle here, and obviously there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And we have to use history, where we've been, what we've learned, go back to what works. And, you know, I think that it's time for a community for us to come together and work together to make sure this fair is a community event for everybody. It certainly shouldn't be just for a certain crowd or a certain race or a certain anything. So, Daryl, I do want to say, I know you were there lots of years and appreciate all the work that you did there. You bring a lot to it. So hopefully we can come back around to that. But I appreciate you telling your story today. And folks, I hope you enjoy it too. You know, just as we close down the show, how do you get listeners involved with preserving Black history, not just for Black History Month, February, but all year around?
Right. How?
Yeah. What's some ideas, or would you suggest?
That we wrap our arms around each other and
Hugs. Give people hugs. Show love. Be kind. And most people don't. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, a hug means you have empathy. You have care for people. And I walk into people. If I haven't met people I might not have met, and you meet them. Hey, give me a hug. You know, I hug men. You know, guys. I mean, hey, come on, yeah, it's great to see you. And that's what it's all about. It's about showing kindness and love. And some people today have hate growing, have a reason to feel like we are above other people, and that's not what we're about. And just to one thing, because I remember just reading something, it was illegal for Black people to read in history. Illegal for us. If we were caught reading, or someone teaching us reading.
You know why? They didn't want you to become smart and be able to fend for yourself.
Exactly. And I explained this when I explained it, is the game of Monopoly.
Right.
Is when you start the game, if I keep you from buying property, keep you from doing this, or put you in jail or whatever, when the game is opened up, well, now you are working from behind, and they own all the property. They own the big luxury liners and boats and stuff. Vessels, I'm sorry. They're not yachts, they're vessels. And I've seen some of them, of course, that are unbelievable. But I don't have that opportunity to, and I work as hard as I physically can, 24 hours a day. I'm not going to get to that point, but it doesn't bother me. I'm happy with what I'm doing.
I say this about how we can get people more involved. This country is a faith-based country, supposed to be. We all read out the same Bible. We all claim Christianity. We all say that we love God, but we don't love each other. I say that if you're watching today, if you believe in God, whatever way God is to you, what denomination you belong to, same word, same Bible. And the Bible says, love thy neighbor. And you ask yourself today, who are your neighbor? And the definition of a neighbor, that's whoever close to you at that time is your neighbor. It's not saying your next door neighbor only, but whoever close to you is your neighbor. So if you love me and don't love my children, how you dare say you love me? And that's what God is saying. How you dare say you love me and don't love what I created? And he created all mankind.
Sure did.
So today, grab a hold of your heart and listen to your heart. That's why I listen to what the Spirit of God tells you. And say, man, I got to do better. In order to see the other side, I got to rise to this side to see the other side. And so we spend, 70 years. He promised us on this side, 70 years. That's what the word say. In the first 35 years of our life, we spend putting bad stuff in our life. And we spend the second 35 years trying to get it out of our life to see God. So let's focus on what God says, not what man says. And I say we can be a better place.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Thank you, Jimmy Smith, Daryl Magill. I appreciate you coming in here today. Very important show. And always enjoy having you in the studio.
Thank you, Casey. Thank
We'll
you.
be back next week. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
A tsunami breaking through the doors. A tsunami of rage washing over the light.